Hello, YouTuber woobers. Woober. Anyway, so I was watching this video from John Kohler. Hopefully, all of you have subscribed to him, and I don't have to talk about it. For those who haven't subscribed to it, it was talking about an event at the previous video that I shared about the Heirloom Festival. That for some reason there's a law in the books that you need a permit for um, giving away fresh food. It's probably some weird law that was written because of, contaminated food going out and being consumed, a gazillion years ago, and it just sat there on the books. And for some reason, this public official decided to go after this festival for whatever political gains that he thought he was going to achieve. And it's interesting about this kind of things because there's laws in places around our country, United States, where it's illegal to collect rainwater to water your plants or even to consume it. That you can't do that. You know, you can't wash your car with water from this town because of short water shortage. But if you take that water from your roof, collect it so you can wash your car, you're going to get fined. So you're going to get fined for washing your car with public water. You're going to get fined for washing your car with water from um, the rain. But you can bring it down to a local car wash where they have a permit to sell you water to wash your car. So is there like a conflict here of how things are working? Last week we had a local election. Um, it was just for some Massachusetts for different few people that are running for offices in Massachusetts. And it's not the big one, you know, the presidential one that's coming up. It's just people who wish to become part. And a lot of people just say, I'm only waiting for the big one. What's the point? So basically, if you wanted to run for office, this was the one to get on the ballot for it because chances are you're running unopposed and nobody is going to, vote you down, which is, an interesting way of looking at it. When people said to me that they didn't see any point in going to such a small election and it's not worth their time. I said, well, when you have something that you need done and you're wondering why the person that's running that department now is being, obtuse, think about the time when you had a chance to vote the person out of office. And, we choose these things. We choose to put Monsanto in charge of our food supply in this country and other countries. We choose to allow GMOs to be the predominant thing in our grocery store instead of having organic or farm fresh food or local food being the predominant thing. We choose to allow government to dictate our life. We choose to allow government to tell us that we have to vaccinate our kids in order to let them go to public school. We choose those choices. We let them say, well, they must know more than us, so we're going to let them do it. 9/11, which we honored a couple of days ago, you know, when that happened, a lot of people advocated to the government saying, do whatever you can. You've got to save us. You've got to do whatever you can. And they used that fear to put in laws that took away a lot of our civil rights, a right to an attorney, a right to fair prosecution. A lot of those things are kind of like, you know, if they could say you were a terrorist, they could lock you up for a long time. So, but we choose to allow them to do that. It's our choice. So, you know, at what point are you going to make this stuff stop? At what point are you going to start standing up? It's easy for all of us, me included. I'm up here in the woods. You know, I'm working on building an off systems. The power goes up. Blah 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 blah. I'm growing food. You know, and you know, I mean, there are laws around this country saying you can't grow your own food. If you have a little garden out front, you can be fined. I mean, what's that about? You can't grow your own food. You got to buy it from Monsanto. I mean, you know, we choose to make that choice. You got to go out and vote. You got to go out and complain. You got to stand up for things. You know, it's funny because I've been thinking about things about myself, and it's like I spent most of my life as an introvert. You know, I didn't participate in things in high school unless I was forced to. You know, I went to work after I got out of college. I was participation on, you know, school newspaper in college and school yearbook. But those are kind of like photographer roles where you really didn't have to talk to anybody. Just took pictures. So, you know, I went to college, went to work. I kept, you know, I did my job. I did beyond my job, but you know, I really didn't stand out in the crowd very much. But here I am now. I'm doing a YouTube channel. I'm talking to thousands and thousands, well, maybe 100, or maybe 5, because you know how many people really listen. But you know, and a lot of the people that I'm talking to, I subscribe to your channel, so you know you're out there talking about stuff. But it's just, you know, the world isn't going to get better, you know, without making a change. And we're going to have to do it. Otherwise, the world's just going to keep on spiraling in a, you know, a downward trend. We can't expect, you know, the president, whoever he or she ends up to be, to make changes to our lives that's going to benefit us. They may benefit our neighbor, but they may not benefit us. So we've got to try to stir all this stuff up to what benefits people. People should be able to grow their own food. They should be able to collect rainwater. They should be able to share their produce with other people. I mean, that was one of the big things at this fair that you watched the video of last week, was that they're giving away food. They're giving away seed packets. They're giving away apples, and these are people that were, you know, these weren't Monsanto giving away food. How often do you go to the grocery store and they give you away apple? I mean, there are stores they'll give food to like an apple to a kid or something, you know, but there actually aren't that many. But it's just a very quirky world, and there are some quirky rules out there. There are rules along. There's a fishing rule along the coast of Massachusetts, whereas you know these people that own these really big, huge mansions, you know, along the shore, think they own their shore, but actually when it goes out 10 feet or so, it becomes fishing. So you can actually walk in the water with a fishing pole. Like, I love that rule because I think that's giving it to the man. But you know, I'm just, you know, get people to get out there and vote. I mean, you know, kids today, they don't see any point in voting, and it's just you know, they don't see why to do it, but they, you know, it's a right that we have that we can easily lose. We can easily lose right to vote. Real easy. It could get taken off real quick. Real quick. You'd be amazed on how quick it could go away. And then you won't be able to choose at all. The town that I used to live in, Hinsdale, we had a problem with a corrupt select board. Now, the problem with having a select board, an elected official, is that the only way to get them off of that board in Massachusetts is that you have to wait till the next election, and then you vote with your vote. Now, if they have another 2 years to go, 3 years to go, you've got to wait 3 years for them to totally muck up your town before it could happen. So the people of Hinsdale got together and they exercised the right of being able to fire a select board member. And it's not in a simple process. You have to you have to have a special election, or a special town meeting where everyone gets together. They have to all vote on this option. And then this option has to be brought up to the governor of Massachusetts, who then decides on whether this town has the right to put that on their book of laws in their town. You know, it's a quirky thing. I'm sure it goes back to Pilgrim days. I'm almost sure of it because it just sounds like something you'd think about in Pilgrim days of having to go up and talk to the magistrate about having an option to, you know, disillusion your government of your town. But that's what they did, and the governor, which I believe was Dukakis, not Dukakis, um, um, uh, I can't remember the previous governor. Now it's Baker. The last governor was a little black guy. Yeah, you can post them in the comments below because I can't remember him. I remember what he looks like. He's a nice guy too. You really like coming out here in the Berkshire. He's the only governor I like coming out to the Berkshires, except for the other one that lived here, the lady. She lived up north. I don't know if that counts. Williamstown doesn't count. But darn, Patrick, Governor Patrick is the one who passed the law that they could do that, and then they had an election, which you know fired all the board except for one, and re-elected new board members. It was a very cool thing. It was a very exciting thing because even if you liked the person, it was a really great option to have in your town because if for some reason you get somebody in, unless they actually break the law, that they get arrested. But I got a feeling that even if they got arrested, they would still be considered select board member until, you know, they chose to resign. Even if they were in jail, they probably could be absent off the board for a while. So, you know, it's a very quirky moral or thing. You know, and very often what happens when they pass a law is that there's so many pages to it, something's buried in it. And it's something they really want passed is buried in it that wouldn't pass for any other reason. So say you wanted marijuana passed, which is actually coming up on the election coming up, is the right for possession of marijuana. So, and somewhere buried in law, there's probably something else that nobody wants. And when they pass it, we're going to get a law that nobody wants. Because the only reason why they give the people something they really want is giving us something we don't want. And I'm ranting and raving 13 minutes, another 20-hour upload. I'm going to put John Kohler's link in here on the descriptions, and I will probably do the So To Tuesday link on here as well when they post it. And then you can have an option to watch both of that way. I won't bug you again today with a second video. Ta-ta! Imagine if I was this crazy when I worked for corporate world. I worked for Kodak. And then I worked Kodak sold us off to Danka, which was another copier. Well, you know what Eastman Kodak is, but they also had a division that they built copiers, large-scale copiers, printers. Actually, quite a lot of things, medical equipment. They were actually quite diverse at the time. They built things for Skylab. Remember that little thing? And then Danko went out of business and got bought up by Conica Minolta, which is where I was. My final spot was. But yeah, it's an interesting world. Maybe they thought I was crazy in that in that little world. Particularly once I had a ponytail, they probably figured I was off. Now we're at the 15 minutes. I just started babbling for another 3 minutes. Ta ta. Have a great Tuesday.